Well, hello everyone. I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Roofing Contractor and Walls and Ceilings magazines. Today is May 7th, 2020. Thank you for watching, whether you're on our website, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, or however you consume your content. I'm here today with Art Aisner, the editor of Roofing Contractor, who's actually on speakerphone. We're having some technical difficulty here with his computer, but we're also here today joined with Brad Moody, who's the president of Moody Insurance Agency out of Denver, Colorado. And as an active insurance broker, Brad's business specializes in commercial insurance with a concentration in the construction and real estate development industries. So Brad, thank you so much for joining Art and I today. And I'd like to just start off with the first question, which can you just share with us, what are some of the most frequent questions you're getting from contractors, whether they're on the wall and ceiling side or the roofing side or general contractors in general?
I'm happy to do that, Jill. So first off, Jill and Art, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your roofing and drywall contractors. Obviously it's been very interesting over the last month and a half, 2 months with everything that's come down with the COVID crisis. So happy to address all the, some of the issues that we're seeing. I've got a list of about 7 that I'm happy to discuss, and I know that you have some questions for me as well. So, I think early on, what we saw a lot of questions regarding business interruption coverage and the intent around that. Now, obviously that affects more of the manufacturing, retail, restaurant type clients. We saw more of it with those that do manufacturing in construction. So if they are, doing any self-performed prefab work, we've seen a lot of questions on that. Now, I'll tell you, most policies have responded by saying, we don't cover pandemic, but you're seeing some class action potential around the country with some of the wording around these policies. So we're recommending to our clients to go ahead and file claims no matter what, and at least let the insurance companies respond to those. I think that's a to be continued discussion. But like I said, it doesn't matter what industry our clients are in, we're recommending they do that. One of the things that we've been really encouraging our clients to do is give us an honest estimate of where things are going. And, a lot of, there's cash flow issues that we're trying to help our clients through. So, if you look at the general liability and the workers' compensation policies, they are payroll or sales based. And, we have a lot of our standard markets that are willing to make midterm adjustments and help their clients with cash flow. So whether that's reducing payroll, whether it's, doing layup programs with their autos and equipment, and or changing payment plans, we're finding most of the carriers are being pretty supportive of their clients, and, they're willing to discuss it on a one-off basis with each client to see what works into their model the best. Going forward, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with workers' compensation. There are some states that are being very aggressive, whether it's Illinois or California, on how they're addressing COVID cases and where coverage is being picked up. And, in California especially, they're trying to get it covered under the workers' compensation program, which, there are industry experts that are looking, this could be a $12 to $30 billion, claim looking forward, which obviously, that's like 60% of what the annual premium is that's, collected each year. So I think work comp's going to be a big concern moving forward. As these contractors look at their experience mods and all the things that go into bidding, this reminds me a lot of post 2008, where if people are not being brought back, they're going to need to get paid somewhere, and they're going to look at workers' compensation as a way to do that. So, we're concerned with the workers' compensation side of it. I think a couple coverages that you don't see a lot of subcontractors focusing on is employment practices liability, which is for sexual harassment, wrongful termination, and discrimination. I think, or at least I believe that, if people are being furloughed, laid off, you're going to see quite a bit of claims activity in the age discrimination area, and also in wage and hour claims for non-exempt. So, if people don't have these types of coverages, I think they need to look seriously at it. The other would be cyber. So, I think, mostly smaller subcontractors, a lot of them don't think about carrying cyber, but with everyone going mobile, it is a big concern. And you're seeing a lot of, people that aren't used to being remote, and, whether it's phishing activity, there's a lot of communication going back and forth as far as payment terms. So if for those clients that don't have cyber, I think they need to seriously look at it. A couple other trends, obviously we do a lot with commercial contractors, and the umbrella market has changed quickly. And I would tell you, I saw that with the May 1 renewals, where we're seeing umbrellas going up 25 to 50%. So, I think that's a forward-looking indicator for me for any of your wall and ceiling and or roofing contractors. Need to pay close attention to that. There are a lot of capacity issues and a lot of consolidation in the marketplace, which has really created problems getting $5, $10, $20 million umbrellas, and we're having to do a lot of layering of programs for that. I think lastly, and I think it's a subject probably for quite a few of your commercial or roofers and drywallers is surety. I mean, bonding is important to the marketplace. So we're seeing a lot of discussions around how is your business impacted. I mean, obviously, most of the employers have fiscal year ends of January 1st. So we're kind of 4 months into it, and how are you projecting where things are going to go? The PPP loans have been important. So, those are discussions that we're having. Did our clients get the funding, and, which is important. And then really, what do they see over the next 6 months? They need to project what their pro forma statements are going to show. And, obviously looking at their backlog very closely and seeing, what's going to go and what's not going to go. In Colorado, we're seeing pretty healthy work on hand still for our clients. So they've got a lot of work to do. But I think on the development side, there's a lot of pause going on. So.
Yeah. Art, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Brad. And I just wanted to follow up on a couple of key points you mentioned there. When it comes to making those midterm adjustments with your policies, how difficult of a process is that? What can contractors expect? And any recommendations there about how to approach it?
I think you just, and I'll give you some examples. I mean, we had builders up in Aspen and Telluride where they were completely shut down. So, we got extremely aggressive looking at how much we were going to decrease it by. Some of them we did 50 and 60%, and they were maybe only into their policies for a couple of months. But, we just wanted to be aggressive and handle it now. And I think it's the right thing to do by the clients. So, hopefully, unfortunately, we've seen some agents not want to do that, and obviously it affects our cash flow as well. But I think it's better to address it quickly, and I think you have a lot of loyalty with a long-term client.
Yeah, can I ask a question for you? You mentioned something about cyber insurance.
Yes.
Is that something that contractors normally already have, or is this something new that is coming up now that this is existing with the pandemic?
It's been around. I mean, it's been around for quite a while, but I would tell you probably only 25% of our subcontract base buys it, and they don't feel that they have a huge exposure there, and we just think it's been escalated because of everyone's mobile. And so, and I think the other problem is that a lot of them don't have very sophisticated IT departments, and they're dependent upon third parties, which obviously you can't go to everyone's house to make sure everything's working well. So. I think it's a policy that everyone should seriously consider, and typically the pricing is $2,500 to $5,000 for your mid-size $5 to $15 million subcontractors.
You had mentioned earlier about some business interruption insurance and how people are being affected with that. Can you give some insight?
Well, on the construction side, most of at least in Colorado, most of our people are working. So, there's not a lot of exposure there. But, for those that, let's just say, manufacture, if they can't have full staffs or their supply chains are being impacted by what's happening, there's a definite impact to their bottom line. And or, if they decide to keep staff as a result of that. So, I think it's going to be a long-standing issue, and I think it's going to be litigated for years to come. There's been a lot of push for the carriers, for different legislatures to push for insurance companies to carry or cover it, but it's not covered under most contracts, and I think that's going to be very difficult to do. Joe, I would tell you that there are estimates of about $350 billion a month in business interruption losses, and the insurance industry has a little over $800 billion in surplus, so they can only absorb a couple months of those losses anyways. So I think maybe down the road there could be a public and private mechanism, much like terrorism, that I think could possibly work. And I think the insurance industry is well set up to adjust these types of claims, and they've got experience with it. So I think that the industry could probably do a better job than just like the PPP loans. I mean, they got it out quickly, and it's been a disaster as far as trying to determine if you qualify for it or not.
Sure. Art, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I do want to follow up on that topic and then get back to the cybersecurity. But first off, when it comes to those delays, that is, we are starting to see that from our contractors, not just in new business, but they're seeing project delays already now. Does the insurance industry? You said that they do have some cushion to work with. Is there some sort of strategy though in terms of the construction industry and understanding how project delays could be impacting insurance coverage or terms?
Yeah. Where we're seeing it mostly impacted is in the builder's risk and in the wrap-up markets, having to extend these policies because that brings additional costs. In the frame market especially, we're seeing a lot of issues with extensions, and mostly stuff that's over $25 million in frame. So what we're seeing, obviously the general contractors and the owners are disputing over who's responsible for these cost increase. And I think the problem is now they're pushing their subcontractors even harder. And, we're seeing, at least in Colorado, that, they're only able to get, 70% of what they could onto a job site because of distancing. And so, it's just, I think it's going to be, litigated item as well between the general contractors and subs and the owners on who's responsible for these delays.
Wow. Sounds like some muddy water ahead. I do want to get back to the cybersecurity issue. Is the concern mostly about the proprietary information about the employer themselves? A company being hacked and losing their internal stuff, or more so about being able to protect their customers and their customers' information as well?
Well, I think it's all of that. The customer obviously, if you have a cyber attack, the big question is where did it come from? Did it come from the subcontractor side? Did it come from the general contractor side? We've seen a lot of people wiring money that on false invoices, and even people following up with phone calls on invoices that have been sent out. So that's a concern. With the amount of phishing going on, there's a lot of COVID information being sent, and people are opening up emails that are disrupting their systems. And I think the ability of the IT departments to respond versus having everyone in one location where they can handle it, a lot quicker, is being an issue.
And so, Brad, now in this COVID-19 world, is it possible for contractors that do have either that insurance or a stronger IT capability, can they use that? Should they be using that as a differentiator?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, obviously it's probably showing in their service to their clients, whether they're dealing directly with owners or they're dealing with general contractors. But I think it's a bigger differentiator than it was 2 months ago. That's for sure.
Regarding the employment practices liability you talked about, is there anything contractors can do now to protect themselves in case there is a furlough situation in 60 or 90 days?
I would say just being consistent with your methods, and obviously, if you were deal with a labor attorney or, in Colorado's Rocky Mountain Employers Council. I mean, finding a resource that would help you better define how you're doing it. I mean, I would say, in 2008, a lot of people took the method of layoffs, their most senior people that were the most expensive. And obviously that's what brought about the age of discrimination claims. So, I think the other thing is being able to track your non-exempt as far as, what are the expected hours. And if you're, looking at less hours, communicating that and them understanding that.
Okay. Brad, let's pivot a little bit in looking forward. Well, first, are there some quick tips or some easy suggestions for roofers that could be looking to save money with their insurance carriers right now, and perhaps in creative ways they may not think of?
Well, obviously, the work comp and general liability is normally their biggest exposure. So, what I'm recommending my clients is be overly, if you think you're going to be down 25%, let's project 50. I mean, I think anything you can do from a cash flow standpoint to help through the next 6 to 12 months, if things come back quicker, obviously you can pick that up at audit. So I recommend that. For those that have good balance sheets, maybe looking at higher deductibles where it makes sense. Is another method. And, obviously, I think anytime you can have options looking at your program and ask your broker to provide those, it's not unusual to see people stripping away certain coverages through this as well, knowing that they're in survival mode and, need to get through it. So I just think anytime you can ask for options, it's good to know. And, what we're seeing is I think the carriers are going to get a little bit more aggressive in pricing. Because of the lack of new business opportunities. We saw that probably on May 1. So, if you're going to go out to market, I think it's a good time, whether, your broker does that or you go out to multiple brokers to do that. But it is time sensitive as well. So, getting an early start is important.
Okay. What, you're located in the storm heavy roofing market. How are you advising clients any differently as far as the storm season, now that COVID-19 is here?
Well, I think it'll be interesting. Obviously labor has been a huge problem in Colorado, and it's interesting talking to my subcontractors, and they're getting restaurant workers and retail, and I mean a lot of people are trying to move into the industry. So from a labor standpoint, I don't see a big issue. I think in bad times, certain contractors start doing things outside their norm. And I think it's important to, look at your general liability exclusions, understand, if you have a residential exclusion or a multifamily exclusion, because, everyone's trying to keep their revenue up and doing different things to do that. So, but, specific to hail, I don't see, big issues there on the insurance side.
All right. How do you think this crisis will change how roofing contractors deal with their own insurance? And then, of course, changes will come for homeowners as well, I imagine. The roofers that rely on insurance to do the roofing work.
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously it could be a very tough year for the insurance industry. We understand property losses, but when you start seeing things litigated with this, this is kind of uncharted water, and I see a slowdown on claims adjusting just because their adjusters are probably handling other things as well. And going back to your previous question real quick, I just thought of something, Art, is the amount of subcontractors being used in the marketplace. You see it in drywall, you see it in roofing, you certainly see it in the framing industries. And I think, if hail were to happen, you're going to see more subcontractors come to the forefront. And I would tell you, a lot of the policies these subcontractors are taking out are dummied down, or very, inexpensive. And we've just seen a huge issue with the amount of claims that are flowing upwards to our subcontract, or, the subcontract base that's employing these people. So I think it's extremely important is to understand and get counseling from your brokers on, what are the exclusions and what are the things we're asking for.
Okay. Really great information. Final question, if you could characterize overall how the construction industry's responded to the coronavirus crisis. How would you assess it? Yeah.
You know, I guess it depends on the level of sophistication of the subcontractor. You know, I think, you know, some of them have done an outstanding job. I mean, and have done it quickly. You know, relying on their safety professionals and you know, really a lot of the guidance from the general contractors on how the job sites are going to be run. You know, I've seen others, you know, looking at a job across the street from me, and you got, you know, roofers up there on the job, and they're not adhering to the 6-foot rule. So, you know, where, you know, the states that are considered, you know, essential, I know there's a lot of contractors that are concerned about people not following the rules, and it's extremely important. So, you know, we feel fortunate, you know, to have our client base that's able to go do work right now. And, you know, if things got bad and, you know, there's enough of those incidents where OSHA cites them, or, you know, municipalities really come down hard on that, you know, obviously we've seen the impact here in Colorado and Aspen and Telluride, and it's devastating.
Okay. Great job, Brad. Thanks for all that great information. Jill, I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Art. Yeah, well, Brad, we do really appreciate your time today. If anybody has any other questions, especially if they're in Colorado or even across the country, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You know, probably, Jill, the best way is just my email, brad.moody@moodyins.com. I'm happy to help out. You know, you know, I've got a lot of experience. I've been doing this for 30 years and have a big concentration in both drywall and roofing. So happy to address any of those questions, and, you know, try to get back as quickly as possible.
Well, we all know it's really important to have a good attorney and a good insurance person in your back pocket. So I know that will come in really handy. And I also want to thank everybody for watching today. If you have any questions, please go to either roofingcontractor.com or wconline.com. On the Contact Us page, you can reach us there. And make sure if you have a chance, if you haven't already subscribed for free to our digital editions or our e-newsletters, so you can stay up to date, so you know when our next videos are going to be happening with great people here like Brad. Make sure you click on that to subscribe. And again, everyone have a safe and healthy day, and we look forward to talking to everybody next time. Take care, and thank you again, Brad.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Art.